From calling out insane bluffs to pulling bluffs himself and reading hands exactly as it is. These are just a few insane poker reads by Daniel Negreanu, and he has a lot to be shown. He is one of the best players to ever play the game, and some even call him Kid Psychic because he is one. How else could he win more than $52 million in just tournaments alone? And back in 2006, at the National Heads Up Poker Championship, things got really interesting between Daniel Negreanu and Greg Fossilman Raymer. Raymer was holding a suited 10-5 and decided to crank up the heat, slapping down a raise to 3,600. Negreanu, with Jack-7 of hearts, decided to call. Then boom! Nanu smacks middle pair on the flop, and they both pump the brakes, opting to check what comes on the turn. And it comes out an 8 of hearts, keeping Negreanu in the lead. But he's playing it cool, checking to Raymer. But that makes Raymer bold, even though he has the worst hand. He throws down a bluff, betting $5,000. Negreanu calls in a flash. Now, here's where it gets wild. The river brings a club, and it doesn't change anything. Yet Raymer is now in deep water. He can't back out now. Plus, Negreanu has been following his raise, and now feeling all cocky, Raymer shoves all his chips in. Talk about high stakes. With just a measly 10-5 suited, Raymer's rolling the dice with a total bluff. Negreanu is sitting there with only second pair, Jack-7, thinking. But Negreanu just decides to trust his gut over all the signs.
Gotta go with my gut. This could be really stupid. I call.
Wow! You call, you win, buddy.
How do you call that?
Great call.
Raymer's jaw hits the floor. Negreanu's got some serious poker intuition. He nails the call, revealing Raymer's empty hand. This was the moment Raymer got knocked out of the tournament. And the crazy thing is, this is not his first time making crazy clutch calls and winning. And that is exactly what happened here too, in an epic play going down with Negreanu facing off against two players. Eric Seidel pulls out two aces, and Shakachi gets king-queen. But Daniel is holding Jack-8 suited. Seidel then slaps down a bold move, raising the stakes to $32,000 before the flop. Both blinds fold, and Shakachi jumps in the mix, deciding to call. Meanwhile, Negreanu's in the zone, weighing his options. He's holding Jack-8 suited on the button, contemplating his next move. With decent pot odds in the upper hand position-wise, he's thinking of diving in. So he calls. Little does he know, Seidel's holding on to pocket aces, the real deal. Then the flop gets revealed. And Seidel tries to play it smoothly, keeping his cards close to the chest. He's just sitting after the flop. Instead of flashing his cards, he plays it cool, hoping to reel in the competition. Shakachi and Daniel, clueless about Seidel's monster hand, play it safe and check. Then, Seidel's still holding the crown for the best hand. And once again, he kept it low-key with
No value raises.
I don't know, maybe I should go with TJ. Fill up and lose.
He lets it go, Pop.
Now, you'd think that with skills and intuition like these, you are more likely to see him folding. But moments like that are like finding a rare unicorn. That's not his style. Even when he's got the fold, dude knows his game, and he even knows your game. But at the end of the day, he does what he wants to, when he wants to. I guess when you play at such high stakes, it becomes even more fun, and you get immersed in it more than you should. And here, Negreanu's back in action, going head-to-head with Brian Kenny, the big shot at the top of poker's cash leaderboard. But get this, Kenny's not just some high roller. Dude's been accused of running a shady online poker hustle that's got players crying foul and wallets feeling light. With over $65 million in winnings under his belt, you'd think Kenny would be bulletproof. But nah, not this time. The flop comes out 5-4-5 rainbow. So Kenny and Solomon check. Then Daniel decides to stir the pot with a 6K bet, even though he has the worst hand. Kenny's sitting pretty with an ace-queen high, so he calls. But Solomon's out, and we're left with Kenny. Then an 8 of spades shows up on the turn, and Rick's probably kicking himself for folding because he could have paired his 8. But again, Kenny plays it cool with another check. But Negreanu's not letting Kenny off easy. He throws down some serious cash, betting $16,000 to be exact. Kenny calls. He has to see what comes out on the river, and Kenny's not buying it, but he's starting to sweat. Then the river reveals, and now Kenny has the best hand without a doubt, but he doesn't know that. And Negreanu keeps on bluffing, now pushing another $85,000 into the pot. Talk about a power move. Negreanu's bluffing like a boss, and Kenny's feeling the heat. With a heavy heart, Kenny folds, and Negreanu breathes a sigh of relief. Kenny should have learned from Daniel's experience, but again, he plays like a madman. Although he doesn't bluff that often, Kenny has been a witness to what has happened right now in a different game. Here, everyone else folds, so it's showdown time between the two big dogs. But Daniel's all about that action. He ain't afraid to throw down 30 grand to call Luca's raise before the flop. And tossed in a whopping $400K. And bam! Luca folds like a cheap suit. That's the power of Daniel's rep right there. He ain't bluffing often, so when he does, it's like lightning striking. With that move, Daniel Negreanu snags the chip lead, balling with over $2 million in chips. The good thing about Daniel is that he is always crunching numbers, weighing his options, and after that, he hits us with moves we haven't even seen yet. And that makes it look so easy. You can see that here when a king pops up from the river, giving Van Plu a sweet top pair. Daniel's sitting there thinking he's in a good spot, so he decides to play it cool and check, hoping to slide through on the cheap. But Van Plu, smelling opportunity like it's his cologne, decides to bet. But he only has $36,200 left, so he goes all in, trying to squeeze every last drop of value out of his hand. Daniel folds as he should, but it is what he says next that's important.
All in.
And he shoves.
I fold, but did you have ace-king? No?
In the end, Daniel's decision to fold, that's some next-level strategy right there. On top of that, how does he know the exact cards his opponents have? We ain't got a clue how he pulls it off, but let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you want see more videos like this, subscribe.